Guys, I'm Emiline, aka Winterstar Cosplay, and pretty much since I started cosplaying, I've been making my own patterns for it. For armor, props, sewing, all of the above, I have drafted and used patterns that I've created entirely on my own. Partially because the patterns I needed were very specific and there wasn't anywhere that I could find them anyway, and partially because I didn't want to spend money on other people's. Whatever the reason is, it can seem a little bit intimidating at first to draft and use your own patterns, but it's actually super easy, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to do it. In this video, I'll be showing you several methods for drafting your own armor patterns and your own sewing patterns to be used for cosplays, costumes, or even just everyday wear. So without further ado, let's get started. First off is how to pattern armor. One of my favorite methods for making armor patterns is to use the duct tape and plastic wrap method. For this, take some plastic wrap and wrap it around the area you want to make the pattern for, in this case, my shin. Make sure whatever you're wearing there is a similar size and thickness to what you'll be wearing for your costume, otherwise your armor won't fit properly. And also make sure you leave some extra room around where you want the pattern to end, just in case. Wrap the plastic wrap so it's snug but not super tight. Then take some duct tape and, using small strips of it, start laying it over the plastic wrap. You can't just wrap a super long piece all the way around because that would be way too tight and create a pattern that doesn't actually fit you. While laying the pieces of duct tape, overlap them to create a smooth pattern and try to avoid wrinkles. Also, do not make it as tight as possible, otherwise you won't be able to get it off. Once you have a smooth covering of duct tape, use a Sharpie marker to draw on your pattern lines. You need to be able to get the pattern off and have all of the pattern pieces lie flat, so keep that in mind when drawing on your pattern lines. In addition, draw on registration marks and label them so you'll know how to reconnect the pieces after you cut them off. Once that's done, you can cut out your other pattern pieces. Be careful not to cut any fabric from your clothes or cut yourself. Cut along one of the pattern lines that you made to get it off, and then once it's off, cut out all of the other pattern pieces, trimming off the excess duct tape. Trace all of the pattern pieces to paper, label them, and make sure to add all of the registration marks. Then just cut out those patterns as well. And then you're done. You have a great custom fitting pattern for your armor that you can use over and over again. But if you don't want to create your own armor patterns, even though that's what this video is about, I do have several armor patterns that are available in my shop that you can find linked below. While this is the most common way that I make cosplay armor patterns, it's not the only way that I do it. I also use a method that I call paper draping, where I essentially take pieces of paper and cut them out, draping them on my mannequin or on myself until I find a shape and a size that I'm happy with. This is great when it's less form-fitting armor, like I did for my General Maya cosplay. A lot of her armor didn't fit snugly to my body, and I needed shapes that I wasn't going to be able to get by wrapping myself in duct tape. Both of these methods are ones that I use a lot for drafting armor patterns. They are super quick and easy, and you can get some great results with them. So let's move on to fabric. I have used commercial sewing patterns before for cosplays, but I'm not admittedly the best at reading them, and they can be expensive, and sometimes there's just not a pattern for what you want to make. So naturally, I make my own. One way that I do this is by tracing garments or costume pieces that I already have onto new fabric. For instance, for my Foolish cosplay from DSMP, I needed a hooded cape for it, and I really didn't want to use a sewing pattern for it. But fortunately, I remembered that for my Scarlet Witch cosplay, I had already made a hooded cape. So I took that cape and traced it onto the dark blue fabric that I used for my Foolish cosplay, cutting it out and then adjusting it a little bit to match better what I wanted for that cosplay. That way I had a nice cape pattern that I already knew worked and fit me, and I didn't have to create something entirely from scratch. You can use this method of tracing things you already have onto new fabric to make any costume piece you want. Shirts, pants, dresses, gloves, capes, anything that you need for your cosplay. If you already have a clothing piece for it, there's no reason to go out and buy a new sewing pattern for it. You can just trace what you already have. A lot of the time too, for me at least, it's a lot easier than trying to use a sewing pattern since, again, I'm not great at reading them and they're confusing. That might just be a me problem. Maybe other people have absolutely no problem reading sewing patterns. It's always been a struggle for me. Moving on from that, another way that I create custom patterns is by draping fabric on my mannequin. I don't actually have a professional, actual mannequin. I DIY'd mine a while ago, but it has been so helpful in helping me make armor and sewing patterns. I can just drape fabric to fit the mannequin, and then I know it will fit me because that mannequin was created by me using my body measurements. So if you don't have a mannequin or you feel like you can't afford one, I would highly recommend you DIY one. This one cost me maybe like $3 to make. It was so cheap. Plus, draping fabric on a mannequin can be super easy for creating your own patterns. I've used this for my Christmas tree dress cosplay and again for my Foolish cosplay. It's super quick. Well, I keep saying everything is super quick and easy. Draping fabric has always been more of a struggle for me than armor building, but using a mannequin can be super easy to help you when you're creating your own patterns. The final way that I create my own patterns is just by completely eyeballing it. I draw things onto the fabric, cut it out, and hold it up against myself until it looks right. A lot of the time I'll have to make tiny adjustments, like trimming the size, making it a little bit shorter, maybe adjusting the actual shape, but usually it's just a process of trial and error. This is how I made the shark tail skirt for my Foolish cosplay, because where on earth would you find a half skirt in the shape of a shark tail? You wouldn't, because it's only something that a cosplayer would ever need. I know I keep bringing up my Foolish cosplay a lot, but I did a lot of sewing for that cosplay and I just finished it and I'm pretty happy with it, so we're just talking about it more. I actually do have full tutorials for how I made my Foolish cosplay if you want to go more in depth for that, but this video is just about the actual process of drafting and creating your own pattern, so we're going to go back to that. Just eyeballing it and completely making it up as you go along is a great way to make more simple costume pieces like a skirt or maybe a cape or even something that's a little bit more complicated. Eventually you might be able to get to a point where you can just completely eyeball something that is a much more complex thing like a top or even a corset or something similar, but that would probably take a little bit more practice and a better understanding of how fabric works. Using all of these different methods, like I said, you can create pretty much any cosplay pattern or cosplay piece that you need for your costumes. All of these methods are pretty easy, and once you get the hang of them, you can create some amazing things. Although, again, if you don't want to make your own armor patterns, I do have some in my shop, which you can buy and support me so I can pay for college. Or you can make your own. That's why I made this video, so that you could make your own cosplay patterns without having to pay for it. So please go ahead and make your own patterns. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, subscribe to my channel. I did hit 1K subscribers. I was going to say followers. I did hit 1K subscribers, which is very cool, especially since I got it on my birthday. Yeah, so subscribe to my channel, yeah, and I make new cosplay videos every Friday, so I will see you all next time.